Maybe we talk about WAP. Welcome.
Welcome. Hey.
Round two.
Episode 2, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, at the end of last show, I threw out a tease, remember? And I said I was going to tell you about how the president could lose the election and stay in office.
Nice, right? You've been doing some research then?
It's really twisted. You got to dig into the Constitution. You got to really dig into it. But basically, I'll break it down for you. It goes this way. If the voting in several states comes in with a certain margin of error, the president can request the state house look into it, a la Bush v. Gore, right? They went to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, right.
Let's say there's 10 states that are toss-up, that are within that margin of error.
Okay.
That would trigger a mechanism that would go to the House of Representatives, where the House of Representatives would need 2/3 vote, and they could throw those states out, and then the House of Representatives could theoretically keep the president in office.
The House is like the one thing that is like,
Right. But now, if the House is in a deadlock, then it rolls over to the Senate.
Okay,
we are like rabbit hole into rabbit hole.
But that's the kind of shit that apparently nobody else has looked into, which I thought. See, and this is the thing. This is one of the fundamentals of how we view our society here in this country, is that we elect folks to take care of this stuff, and we think that they're responsible and acting in our best interest. And but that right there is supposed to be the trust of society, is that right there, that we all act in this good faith, of we elect those folks to look out for us, essentially. And yeah, they all have some different, but the overall goal of America being great. But when that fails, then what do we do?
Right.
And there's, like, I've heard so much referenced, all of our system is based upon gentlemen's agreements. Mm-hmm. Man, how is that effing possible? But how is that possible? I don't understand that, because literally these people do nothing but sit around writing new laws. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, they do that all day long. But they hadn't nailed down these old ones yet.
Right.
I mean,
and then there's so much gridlock that they can't go back and close the loopholes, because they're afraid of the good old boys network is going to show them the door.
But that gridlock is intentional now, from what I understand. That, I mean, there's so many bills piled up on McConnell's desk in the Senate that have been sent there from the House to get passed along to be voted on, if we all remember how a bill becomes a law. Mm-hmm. But they just die in the Senate, and because he refuses proudly to not take anything to a vote, which we briefly mentioned that before, that, I mean, how is that not just like isn't that called like dereliction of duty? I mean,
yeah.
I mean, you're openly telling everybody that you're not doing your job.
I think in 2020 they call that good politics.
But that's been like going on for several years.
Oh no, it's been going on since the 80s. I mean, since maybe even before that. Well, I'll give you this.
I mean, this kind of going on now?
It's been going on since post Iraq War the first time. So you remember that, we were in high school, right? Iraq War.
Sure.
And then that got exemplified even more. I'll tell you when I think it started. Patriot Act. Right? And we can get into the Patriot Act this time, next time, or whatever. But when you look and you see what's in the Patriot Act, and things changed after that, right? It was America first, and
but even before that, they talk about, like, what was it, like Newt Gingrich,
the New Deal, or whatever it was called, or the Contract with America.
but that was like before the Iraq War, I think.
Yeah, because Clinton was still in office.
That would be like the late '80s at that point or something.
Yeah, I think
looking all this up, but I'm not going to.
Yeah.
But the 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 direction I was taking it was like how it got into such, the whole attack politics. I mean, I think that's always been there. I mean, they used to shoot each other, I mean,
Right.
all right. I mean, that was not impossible with it. Guys would just get in a fight,
And they do.
Well, I mean, like those other countries maybe they will again. We're doing all the other stuff that all the third world countries do, so maybe I guess we'll start throwing down in the Senate or something. But that your scenario is, I mean, what do you say? That the Congress, I guess, would have that. You said the House would have first whack at it, essentially. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's reassuring because you think that's going not Trump's way.
Because see, the rub is, let's say the Democrats win more seats than they currently have. Mm-hmm. Those votes aren't officially ratified, and that doesn't take action until.
I get that. I mean, I'm just even on the current count.
Right, even on the current
on the current standings in the House, if it was,
it's not 2/3. Either way.
Okay, well, they're trying to pull every damn. I mean, it's not even shenanigans. It's again. I mean, I'm still stunned at this idea that that everybody's just somehow caught by surprise. I'm caught by surprise, but I'm not a lawyer.
Right.
And even if I was a lawyer, I'm not a constitutional lawyer. Or even if I am a constitutional, I don't work in Congress or the Senate. Or if I did, well, then what the shit? I mean, at some point, there's been no responsibility taken for anything.
Like you're saying, there should be a gatekeeper, somebody who's like, hey, guys, look at this.
I thought that's what all the representatives and senators are for, is to do this gatekeeping, to be.
No, man, they're there to get reelected and to raise.
Well, I understand that. I know that. I get that. But I'm saying that they seem to all be that the Democrats seem to be pointing. I mean, don't get me wrong. The Republicans have circled the wagon and they're just like, F it. We're just denying. I mean, in my opinion, it's like just denial of reality, and it's just blaze ahead, and you either burn it all down on the way there, or they win, and they win the smoking ruins of what's left, I guess. But the Democrats seem to be thinking, we just need to try to play by all these rules that have been set up. And I'm like, okay, fine. That seems great, except, oh, by the way, the other side is not playing by those rules at all anymore. I mean, there are just example after example of, I mean, they don't even recognize subpoenas. I used to be familiar with what those were.
Yes.
And they used to mean something.
Yes, subpoenas were a big deal.
Yeah. But apparently they're not anymore. And that seems crazy. And I just can't help. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. They're either the whole thing is a house of cards and that's just getting exposed, which seems to be kind of likely because, again, all this, oh my gosh, we never saw this coming. How could we have seen this coming?
Well, I think to your point,
our entire system.
Yeah, I think to your point, every president up to now has played by those gentlemen's agreements that you were talking about earlier, right? I mean, think about every president going back as far as, like, we were born during the Nixon administration, right? Even Nixon, for being the biggest crook as he was, still played by the gentleman's agreement. Everybody has played by it.
Well, and that's what everybody's talking about, of course, for coming up. Like, if the election is, undecided or is unclear, or if it goes against Trump in any of those scenarios, other than in any scenario than him being declared victor, he's going to stay there anyway. and he's going to refuse the results. He's already calling. He did it the first time around. He was calling the first election a fraud,
and he won.
And he won. You're like, and if that's your guy again, okay, cool. So, but he's doing it again, and it'll work again.
Right.
Apparently.
Well, I'm in the state of North Carolina, and I don't know if you saw this in the news, but he was urging voters in North Carolina to mail in their vote and then show up in person and try to vote.
Vote twice.
The last time I checked is illegal.
For sure.
And he tweeted this right now where he's saying vote twice. And if you're not seeing the tweet,
man, Google it.
Legit tweeted said vote twice with North Carolina.
I know, Google it. What the postmaster, that DeJoy person, sent out voting information cards to people with inaccurate info.
Yeah.
Again, it's not even.
They're not even hiding it.
So I'm saying, and in this state, everything's mail-in voting, which is nice. Right. So we don't. But all these other places that have to deal with, polling in line, where they have just, gone overtime to shut down state, the voting stations in every community that isn't the rich white community. It will get weird, unfortunately, I think, at those places, because the amount of rhetoric that has been spewed so far that has gotten us where we are. He's already been spouting off stuff about having, my army of supporters at polling stations. And you're like, man, we're going to go there? Holy cow.
No. It could get real ugly. He could declare martial law. There's a lot of things constitutionally that he could do to prevent himself from being out of office.
And I don't know the ins and outs of that one.
It's not pretty.
It seems like if he could do that one, that would already be laid out there. What that is, again, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying anything's impossible, because that's silly.
Well, the thing about martial law, if you look it up, once he declares martial law, Congress has to act within a certain amount of days. So if he was going to do that, it's too soon. Congress would have to act before the election. So I don't know if it's 30 days or 60 days, but once you declare martial law, then Congress has to act within a certain amount of time. So that's kind of like, once you push that button.
And that window is getting close.
Exactly.
Yeah. We don't need a production assistant. You got all this stuff on.
Well, I did a lot of research. But hey, you kind of teased.
Well, here we are. But let me riddle you this. What does it matter? The borders are already closed. If you have a passport, it doesn't matter anyway. It doesn't get you anywhere other than a bunch of crap. Brazil, which is on fire, or Russia, which, okay. So where are you going to go? It's already too late. And plus, but no one will take us, right? Because of we're all pariahs and freaking plague rats.
Yeah. Whoever thought Mexico would close the border to us?
Yep.
Let that one swirl around your head.
Dude. Forget about it. So the clip I'd like to find for all the firearms enthusiasts out there, was our dear leader saying, just take the guns. Just take them. Just how he riffs off the cuff.
Yeah.
I just riff. I say shit. I might mean it. I might not. Doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
But he said that. Again, and that would be like round 9,862 of if Obama had said it.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But dude, the thing is, if he says something like that, I guarantee you he would do it. Come
Absolutely.
on. So But I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, because at that point you're talking about what? I mean, I guess the scenario would be he uses all the people, his supporters to round up everybody else's guns, and then when that gets done, then he rounds up all their guns, and then
Right.
else. Yeah, that would probably be how that goes down. So
and again, that wouldn't be
because we're not some big united like Wolverines, like
Red Dawn.
yeah, there's a bunch of people that are really into that movie, but that movie supposed a united states fighting against the invading Russians versus
a fractured
union.
No,
I mean it. Yeah, which has been so. I mean, the thought that I just get left with is investment dollar per return for dear Mr. Putin. I mean, if you subscribe at all to the idea that because here's the idea I've subscribed to in a quick nutshell, that the failed state of Russia is run by a bunch of dudes, business people that took over the government to pay themselves and pay all their buddies and F everybody else. And
what do they call those guys? The oligarchy or the oligarchs?
Yeah, but that's not a word I've ever used. I'll work it into my vocabulary at some point, but it doesn't sound like an American word. So I don't know what the American version of that word is. We've got them. And that's what's being embraced right now here. But anyway, but over there, that whole failed, state has resulted in a mob state. And the amount of money that mob state has spent to get what I believe has been sending money through the NRA, which the NRA just got shit canned, which is hilarious. But again, the most American bunch of patriot flag humping are the biggest sellouts, and it's amazing. And again, we talk about that projection. I mean, when you're trying that hard to look a certain way, I mean, you're either like the most, you're either like 100%, whatever that is, or you're just so fake. And I don't know, it's just crazy.
Well, the thing that gets me are the people who the lower the underlings, not the high ups at the NRA. But the people who are our age or younger who are listening to the rhetoric and believing it, and they're walking around with these big flags, and they have no idea what's going on at a high level and how they're being used.
They don't care, though.
They're the pawn.
It's all my team and the other team. That's all it is. I mean, it's college football. That's all it is. I mean, it's the same dudes. I mean, it's the same mentality. I mean, it's just not to dig on college football. Probably shouldn't bag on, but it's the sport. If we were in England, it would be the soccer mentality. It's my team versus
my team, your team.
Whatever. That's all it is. And there's so many of the folks. I mean, now are so ignorant of any of the history. I mean, that I was kind of taken for granted. People knew of. But even people our age, I mean, whether they're ignorant of it. Shit, forget about our age. People like the boomers. The old
that went to Germany and fought the Nazis, those guys?
Or like their direct descendants.
Yeah.
I mean, they're kids who, I mean, they grew up with dad had a whatever story from the war about all the Nazis that he, you know what I mean? I mean, I don't know. How that, I mean, you went from this generation that fought against them to this generation that somehow has completely
forgotten that. Yeah.
I don't know, or just never gave a shit in the first place. And because they talk about, like, I mean, the greatest generation being the World War II generation, and they're like baby boomers. Honestly, I mean, because they want to talk a lot of crap about like the millennials and whatnot being lazy and all this. No. The baby boomers are the ones that had it the easiest. I'm going to go ahead and put it right there. The baby boomer generation had it by far the easiest. And again, especially if you're talking about like folks that look like me, pasty, and you know, we were the dream. We were living the American dream. I wasn't alive, but I'm just saying that's what was going on. They had every opportunity. They had every door open. They were making us, I mean, the country itself was making all sorts of dough because we were the only ones left after the war.
Exactly.
I mean, we were booming.
Factories were going. Everybody had a car.
You know, okay, yeah, fine. They had to worry about the Cold War and nukes and duck and cover. Okay, fine. I mean, my kid has, I'm sure, I bet your kid too gets to do mass shooter drills.
Yeah.
So, fuck
Yeah.
off. I mean, which one's a lot more likely? I mean, you know.
Yeah.
If it's new time, we're all going. So
yeah.
that didn't happen. But this active shooter, I mean, and again, that could be a whole episode too. But I'm just saying that, you know, the things we, you know, are trying to be super scared of and, you know, lock ourselves down for. Some of it for good reason, others of it like, you know, again, what do they say? Like the amount of people that died at 9/11. I mean, that's like the everyday death toll of COVID. I mean,
yeah, I know.
I mean, the changes that we went through as a society after 9/11, you know, that led to this police state. And I mean, dude, it's like,
I mean, we've touched on that, like the Patriot Act.
Comically, yeah, I mean, I know, but that's what I'm saying. It seemed so stupid and comically obvious at the time. Just like all this stuff does now. It seems so painfully like if I did any of this shit, I'd have been so locked up like 400 times over by now.
Right.
I mean,
well, think about this. All right. So we were working together when September 11th happened, right?
Right.
So I don't know if you remember this. September 10th, 2001, the MAX opened going to the airport. Do you remember that?
Not particularly.
Okay. So that sticks out in my head. So September 10th, the MAX went to the airport. That was the first day it went to the airport. I rode it to the airport. It was cool. On that day, I could have walked into the airport with whomever, walked them to the plane, damn near walked onto the plane with them, right? Remember those days?
Yeah, no, for sure. Versus after.
So you think about that now, and it seems crazy, right? You got to take your shoes off to get on a plane. So think about the things that we've given up since then to now, and then put that into now. Going to the store and standing in line next to somebody is never going to happen again, right? Think about the things in the last 6 months that we've given up, right or wrong, but that we've given up, right? You can't shake hands with anybody. I mean, just look at all of the things. You can't have kids in school right now. Think you can't have people in stadiums.
Well, I mean, that one seems to be up for debate. I mean, oh my God, right? I mean, aren't there still like all these schools that are still open or opening or trying?
I mean, colleges across the country are having massive breakouts, hotspots, because they're packing these kids into school. So,
well, yeah, and then all that, and I mean, I've seen plenty of the videos of like all these college kids doing college kid stuff of all partying, and you're like, gosh, I wonder how that's going to work out. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
And then all those kids are going to go home at whatever and go spread it, you know, go home like on break or whatever.
Yeah. Well, look at the Sturgis rally. Did you see the numbers from that?
Well, then I heard those numbers were debated.
So let's say you even cut those numbers in half. Let's just cut them in half.
I'm sure it was a ton. I mean, come on, it had to be. I mean, dude, nobody making any effort at all, and in fact, people going out of their way to. I'm sure people were like spitting in each other's mouths at every opportunity with that thing. Just, you know, America. You know, I mean, dude, you know that was happening.
Yeah.
I mean, you've participated in as many events as I have that attract crowds, like, you know, they would go to a rally for our dear leader, and I'm not saying there's just some overlap is all I'm saying. There's some overlap, and But I think that's the draw. That's why people like it, because it feels like you're going to such a show. It feels like you're going to such a crazy carnival event, just like wrestling or whatever. But yeah, at the same time, I know the spectrum of his supporters is stunning. Like, example, I was talking to my mom, who is an elderly lady, and she was referencing a friend of hers who is an ardent supporter of our dear leader, and I know who this person is, and I'm like, that's an educated person. That was the first thing that went through my head. I'm like, wait, time out, stop. That can't be true. That person is educated.
Right.
Like, only uneducated folks would be. That's not true though. And like we talked about, or I know I've mentioned before, that if you're a big supporter of his because of the tax implications, then fine.
Mm-hmm.
Fine, say that. Fine, cool. Just be honest about that.
Right.
And you're also needing to be honest about that you're willing to overlook all the other stuff, which obviously you're cool with that too. It's not that you're super cool with it. In their mind, they wouldn't be. It's not. I assume in their mind, they would say, I'm not cool with it. It's just that I'm really cool with the tax stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I don't really hear that many people saying that when they're supporters of his. They just, well, at least in my mom's case, this person was just adamant about trying to influence my mom's vote. And I'm like,
and on what grounds? I mean, like let's break it down. Like, you said this person's educated, someone your mom knows, so I'm assuming she's known them for a while. Like, on what grounds, if you know, are they a big supporter of his? Like what's the thing that draws?
I do not know.
Okay. Yeah.
Mystery. And even when, and because that was the thing, part of me kind of wanted to ask my mom the same thing, but then I was like, you know what? I don't care. I mean, I it's not that I don't care, but there's nothing on it. If you're still on board at this point, there ain't nothing I'm going to be able to say to change your mind. There's nothing. I mean, there's just this is not like the crossroads, and like, I mean, you're so far down the road, you're just on that road.
Yeah. All the stuff the guy's done, if you're still on his train, you're on his train to the end.
That's what I'm saying. And yeah, for sure. On fire and heading into the wall.
Exactly.
And you're just going woohoo the whole time.
You're cracked a beer.
I swear to God, though, people take pride in that mentality. They fucking do. And I think a lot of it is his supporters that are old because they're old. Mm-hmm. They have told me straight to my face that very thing. Oh, well, I'm old. I just don't really care so much anymore. I'm like, oh, well, gosh, aren't you just like Jesus? I mean, right.
Yeah.
So, and these are people with children and grandchildren. Mm-hmm. I'm like, damn, you're that. I get you may not give a shit about me.
Well, what about this guy and that guy?
Well, what about your own kids and what about your own grandkids? I mean, what the heck? That's crazy. I don't know. I just don't know. I still think a lot of folks really are just in it for the taxes, and they go, and they stomach the rest of it because they go, oh, it's all kind of shitty.
I think some people say they're in it for the taxes, but they're in it for other reasons.
You're true believers.
And the taxes are a legitimate way where an educated person would say, all right, I get it. In the back of their head is something else.
I'm giving folks too much credit then?
I think so. Think about it. If you're in it for another reason, you can't say that in mixed company. But if you can have a 30-second speech on why you're in it for the taxes, people are going to go, I think you're wrong, but I get it. But if you're in it for this Make America Great Again and you want to go back to the 50s and 60s and all this, You can't say that around mixed company. You can only say that around your friends. But if you say you're in it for the taxes, you could really mean something else. And I know people in that same boat. 100%.
Okay.
And people our age, right? There's people our age who, a good friend of mine, we don't talk as much as we used to, but a good friend of mine who has told me, we've had this discussion. My grandfather had it good. My dad had it good. And he's like, in his 40s, he's like, I'm the first generation who might not be the main guy, right? It might be this guy or this guy, and this guy might be African American, and this guy might be Latino, and this guy might be Korean. But he's like, this is the first generation where I'm not necessarily on top. I'm not the main guy. And that scares him because he's always been, his whole family has always been the top.
Which has got to be sweet. I mean, I'd like that too. But
you see the premise of where some of these people are coming from.
I know, I dig it. That's that whole, entitlement and stuff. Which again, the projection, a term that rich white folks love to throw at all those poor minority folks. They love their entitlements. Let's cut off the welfare. Let's cut off the entitlements.
Mm-hmm.
Of all people in the world that feel entitled,
yeah,
it's people that look like me. I mean, we are the most entitled people in the world, and just realizing how much that is. I mean, obviously, a lot of folks don't want to do that. And it's not a fun pill to swallow, but it's, it's like anything else. I mean, it's realization or it's your head up your ass. And when you do so willingly, you know what I'm saying? Like when you do that, when something is exposed to you as an adult, it's got to be different when you're a kid, of course, but as an adult, when you're exposed to information, fact, which is what is getting so screwed up anymore, but when you know it's fact, and we all know what it is, and you willfully like disregard that, you willfully ignore fact. I mean, you're really kind of taking a step away from kind of the rest of the world at that point,
right?
And then you have to maintain that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because assuming that you ever go around anybody again that you initially laid that out there for, you got to maintain that.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to maintain it in your own head. And you got to create that belief. And then you got to.
Absolutely.
And then pretty soon maybe you just say, I guess I do believe it. And you're like, but you don't, but you have to now.
Right. And see, when it comes to entitlements, you know me, right? We go way back. I don't want anything that is not coming to me that I don't deserve. And I don't speak for everybody, and everybody doesn't speak for me. Now, I'm always going to fall on the side of the little guy because that's who I've always been, is the little guy. So I'm always going to fall on the side of the little guy.
For sure.
And I think if we are going to live in a civilized society, it's incumbent upon the people who have more to help out the little guy, because the people who have more have put a system in place that holds down the little guy. The little guy has a hard time making his way up through the system, right? And I'm not even talking about race. I'm just talking about pure economics. If you're born poor, you're most likely going to die poor unless something drastically changes.
For sure.
So if I'm in a situation where I could help out the little guy, get a little bit, help him up one step, I want to do that.
Then here's my thing, though. I don't. If we're the greatest country on earth, we're not supposed to need to rely on the contribution, charity of individuals.
100%. We're not.
If you want to, nice on you.
Right.
But this is supposed to be, I reiterate, the greatest country on earth. And again, I mean, you and I grew up in a generation, again, we came right after the boomers who were, I'm going to harp on this again for a moment, but they came off the softest upbringing ever.
Mm-hmm.
At least the ones that
no, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
They came the softest upbringing. I mean, which is weird because I mean, my old man was in the Navy and fought in 2 wars, so I wouldn't really call that a soft upbringing.
Was he in Korea too?
Yes. In Vietnam.
Okay.
My
pops was in World War II.
Right. So yeah, I thought my old man was old until I met your old man. And I was like, oh, God, somebody's got an older dad than I do. That's amazing. That seriously, I don't know that ever happened like any other time in my life. So I mean, I guess I can't really call his upbringing soft, and he wasn't really a boomer. That's the thing, because he was born before World War II. But like my mom, my mom's definitely a boomer. Okay, and so I just think that so many of the boomer generation, they grew up in the most prosperous time of this country, and they had every opportunity afforded to them. And their parents were war parents, a lot of them, of course. And, a lot of those GIs, again, not all of them. And there's a problem. Again, for the folks that look like me, that whole era was the easiest time in history. And these are the people that are the most bent out of shape and have the biggest stick up their ass and are the biggest supporters of Trump. And I don't understand it. I'm like, God dang, people, you had some of the easiest upbringing ever. You had it when America was, that's the time they're trying to get back to.
That's why they're supporting him. Because he's like, make America great again. He wants to take that generation back to their glory days, right? And as we know, you can never go glory days. You got to move on. There's progress. Because when you talk about make America great again,
yeah,
if you look like me, like my dad, right? My dad was born in 1924.
Mm-hmm.
Make America great again was not a great time to be my mom or my dad. That was, or my uncles or my aunts. Make America great again is their worst nightmare. They marched and fought and bled and died to get out of that, right? The Make America Great Again time for people who look like me was not a time to be great in America. It just wasn't. It just wasn't.
And if it's that thinly veiled of a call, that whole slogan, and if that's really
even that thinly veiled,
I know
in my family, and I can trace my family back couple hundred years, right? Not too far, but a couple hundred years. Dude, my dad was born in 1924 in Mississippi. He joined the Army at 16 years old. It was safer for him to go to Europe and fight Nazis than it was to be in Mississippi. Right. So when people start talking this make America great again stuff, I'm like, no, dude, like, no, like you're wrong. I will argue with you all day long. Sure, if you're somebody else, make America great again is awesome. But if you're in my family, from the time my mom and dad were born up until the 60s and 70s, there was nothing great about America for my family. Nothing at all. Nothing great at all. I mean, my dad went to war to fight Nazis to get out of the country, to get out of the state of Mississippi, because he was more likely to be killed in Mississippi than he was going overseas to fight Nazis.
Right.
Tell me how that's great. Tell me, how's that great? I'm waiting. I want somebody to write and tell me how that's great.
Nah, that's
So when you say thinly veiled, there's nothing thinly veiled to me. And I'll speak on it all day. It is blatant to me.
I mean, no argument. None. I mean, it makes me think about like all the folks that I know that are supporters, and then it's like, dang, are you all seriously just a bunch of racist bastards? because he's kind of seeming like you are, I guess. And everybody likes to make all the comparisons back to, World War II and the Nazis, and but there's a lot of reasons why, because that's important shit, and that was not that long ago, and there are too many similarities to not pay attention to it. But like a story I always heard about, or not always heard, but a story I have heard of how a town that was near one of the camps, and like when when Americans liberated the town, or the camp rather, they went to the town that was nearby, and all the people there said, "Oh no, we don't know what's going on. We have no idea. I think that's a factory or something over there." I mean, there's no way that you could be ignorant of what that is, right? So they forced everybody to go over there. Like they literally marched the entire people of that town over to the camp, and again, it's just so crazy how things that you take for granted, like there wouldn't be a problem with Nazis anymore. You take that for granted. And I was never so silly or ignorant as to think, racism is over in this country. I was at least thinking that it was kind of on a trend of betterness, So from my arrival and being young and growing up and learning about it and looking back and seeing how ignorant I was about a lot of it, even as a kid or even as a young adult. And I really thought overall that there was an upward trajectory of getting better. And then, I mean, if nothing else, these last few years have really revealed how I mean, it's just been a facade. It's been a big, nasty secret in the corner. I don't know the right way to put it.
Mm-hmm. No, you're not wrong.
I don't know.
And to me, it's disappointing because there's people I know, there's people that we know, right, who we used to hang with, won't say his name, that I'm friends on Facebook with, and I can't believe some of the stuff he puts out there. And I'm like, it's, and I know you're not on Facebook, but it's so disappointing because.
So then why are you so compelled? I mean, don't you just got to go click and then you don't see that dude's stuff anymore?
Oh, no. I've done that. I've cleaned out my Facebook.
Okay. I was curious.
I'm just talking about the stuff that I've seen that led me up to that point.
Okay.
Just like, are you trying to be funny? Are you making a joke? Are you?
No, there is no.
And it got to the point where you're right. I'm just like unfriend, and I'm just like I don't need that in my life. Like,
well, and that's what my mom had to do with her friend, which is crazy because I mean, again, this is a person that I knew as a kid. I mean, it blows my mind again, and that's what I would have described this person as a liberal person.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I never in a million years. So I mean, there's just, and that's what is, that's the big awakening, and as hurtful as all this is right now, man. I mean, if I could try to be positive at all, and that any kind of good comes out of it, shining a light on the roaches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we've had like a cheerleading of the roaches,
right?
And we've had people laying bait out for roaches.
Yes.
We've had folks saying, "Fuck, you just come on out and be a roach,"
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of it. That so I mean, just the emboldenedness of people now that before knew to keep that stuff.
That's the number one thing that I've noticed with this last 4 years. or people are emboldened to come out and put that right on their chest, where before they kept it at the house, locked away. They're bringing that right out in front right now.
Oh man, yeah.
And
Well, and yet they're still too cowardly to, they still have to do like little code words or code phrases or special kinds of dress on their, on all their super Call of Duty gear. They got to wear a special flower bandana or some shit to let everybody know, in case you couldn't tell by all the fucking crap I've got on. It's pretty clear where you stand. But you know what? There have been times where I have seen, folks that are, again, I really hate saying the other side, because God damn it, we're supposed to be Americans. But I'll let that go. The other side being armed, to the more. And while I don't think an escalation is good, because I think that plays into the hands of overall stronger lockdown on everybody, not on everybody, on the people that they want to clamp down on in the first place. That's the thing. There's all the protests, but yet the only people come, with armed, are all the people starting shit. Right. Whether it's cops or whether it's the cops' pals. Right. And that whole dynamic that's going on right now is, that stupid kid in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
They said, oh, he was an explorer. I'm like, yeah, good.
You know about the explorers, right?
Well, I'm just like, man, back in the day, like, we got to work like traffic accidents and direct traffic, and we thought that was cool. This motherfucker's like walking around
fully armed, man.
And like all the videos of like the cops like throwing them water and telling them you're our buds and all this kind of garbage.
It's kind of scary, right? It's not
even kind of scary. It's ridiculous. The kid's wearing freaking little rubber gloves. What is that?
Right.
I assume it's not because of the Rona. I assume maybe because you don't want your prints on something.
Yeah.
You
don't want gunshot residue.
How premeditated was all this? He drove. He had his mommy drive him from another state to go kill people.
Right.
And that's crazy. And then the cops drive right past him.
Mm-hmm.
And every part of that is just, and now people are like somehow like treating him like a damn hero. And and again, this could be such a small, and this is the problem again with the internet and everything else, because it's such a small number of people making so much noise about the stuff.
Right.
Like, oh, he's a big hero. Yeah, okay, maybe for like 16 people that make 4,000 posts, and oh yeah, all the good folks in Russia making all the posts along with it. It's a lot of noise from, I don't think that many people, and it doesn't represent the amount of people that I think it really looks like it represents.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Last episode, you said you wanted to talk about 9/11. I want to ask you this question.
Sweet.
How united do you think the country was on September 12th? Like, really?
Oh, shoot. As united as we could have been in dealing with this coronavirus. But yet, again, we just lacked any. Well, I don't want to say we lacked leadership. We had leadership that was intentionally trying to make it worse, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And because to me that it seemed like an opportunity to, really, everybody would come together and fight the virus. Just like everybody was going to come together and fight terrorists.
Right.
That didn't happen this time around. It sure did the first time around, man. This whole country just bent over and said, "Take it."
Yeah.
Take it all. you know, man, I mean, we just so willingly gave up every damn thing in relation to any kind of privacy or anything like that.
Privacy,
Um,
freedoms.
and all of this was well before the internet and Facebook, right?
Right.
I mean,
Absolutely. 2001?
this was like the perfect precursor for smartphones and Facebook to ruin us all.
Mm-hmm.
It really was, because I mean, we signed up. Well, I mean, the Patriot Act made us sign up to give away all of our information, whether we wanted to or not, because
Right.
if you were deemed an evildoer, then they can lock you up and take away all your freedoms. And oh, that'll only happen to the Taliban people. That surely won't happen to a bunch of people, say, protesting cops or something.
Right. Exactly.
They wouldn't all just get swept up and taken away. And, you know, what is it, the extrajudicial? I don't think that's the right term. The renditioning, you know, the snatch you up and take you away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and what we already had that, we had that here. So again, and that's a direct byproduct of that. I mean, so again, I'm talking about that there were, you know, unmarked,
Unmarked vans.
Well, I was gonna say soldiers, but they're not even soldiers. They're unmarked, armed people in
acting as agents of the United States of America.
Yeah, in military outfits with no badging, which is a big freaking no-no.
Yes.
I mean, that is a massive.
Yeah.
No like identification. Number one. I mean, no cool little death head patch or nothing, just nothing at all. And that's goon squad stuff.
Right.
You know, that's supposed to be the stuff that gets all the Second Amendment folks all in an uproar.
Right.
You know? Oh my gosh. There are unknown federal agents abducting people off the street
at gunpoint.
You've got it. You hold on while I get my freaking bazooka. I'll be right there.
Right.
But again, all of those guys are all with the cops. Right. They are. I mean, they're all getting water bottles tossed to them by the cops. I mean, they're on the same team.
It's scary. I mean, when you think about it, like, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, what does make it, how it makes sense is that we took white supremacist organized crime gangs off of the FBI's watch lists. We made them no longer a threat, essentially. We made them no longer of interest. And wow, it seems like they're kind of a thing that you should be watching. That was like one of the first things they did after Trump got in office. You're like, wow. I mean, again, all the things that have been taken apart in this country. I mean, the list is a mile long. It's just it's like, where do you even start? Who's keeping track of everything that's been destroyed?
Right.
And that's why, and like when his supporters go, oh, you know, if they were ever to be so amazingly adult as to ask you what you don't like about the current situation, it's like, oh my, all of it, you know. I mean, you know, okay, let me start with, you know, I mean, there's a lot.
Well, I'll give you one. You take the biggest polluter and you put them in charge of the EPA.
I mean, come on.
Isn't that like the fox guarding the hen house?
Every single administration has an example like that of God, the guy that runs the frickin' post office has a stake in whatever it is, FedEx.
Yeah.
Or UPS, one of the two. I mean, that's all it is just grift on top of grift, you know. So, and it's just so darn blatant. And that's another amazing loophole that was known by nobody apparently, was that you can just appoint acting everybody's and not get anybody confirmed by Congress and the Senate, and just do whatever the hell you want. Doesn't really matter
Yeah.
because by the time anybody gets around to getting to you, because you're busy just taking a crap on everything.
Mm-hmm.
But because again, I mean, his whole entire tactic is do whatever the hell I want. Eventually, somebody will sue me. Fine, I'll see you in court. I'm gonna keep doing what I want,
Right.
and I'm gonna just stall you out in court until the end of time.
Yeah.
And apparently that's a winning strategy. It's the same thing that's happening now. Like you said, with running out the clock on one thing or waiting for the clock to run out to where they can, like you started out talking about with martial law and that Congress has to act in a certain amount of time, but they wait out a clock and go, okay, bam, we're going to nail it as soon as that time frame. Again, what pisses me off so much is that all the people that we were paying to know all the laws, write all the laws, make sure everything was airtight, and they're all going, I didn't see any of this coming. Gosh, everything was just none of this was really written down. And you're like, are you fucking kidding me? But yet our adversaries, who again I believe are Russian, they seem to be boning up on our freaking civics classes pretty damn hard. And I mean, I guess it's it's a great example, quite frankly, of that age-old saying of like, people that were born here don't know their history, but immigrants that have to work at it and take the damn test, they know their history really, really well.
They know the history.
You know what I mean?
Better than we do.
And that's the thing is that, and it just, it makes me all punchy that, again, these are people that are supposed to be smarter than me. They're supposed to have had all this figured out. And they're all going, I never saw that coming.
Mm-hmm.
And then meanwhile, apparently a bunch of other people did because they're robbing us blind and making you all look stupid. So you're either stupid or you're complicit. You're incompetent or you're in on it. And I have that same opinion about all of our good 3-letter agencies, which we, are also supposed to be enamored of. Again, they're either in on it or they're not very good at stopping it. Because either they want the country to be this way, or they really fucked up in keeping it from being this way.
So we could go off on a tangent into some conspiracy theories here, right?
Which I'm not trying to go completely to the moon.
No, I got you.
Or not go to the moon.
Right. Yeah, ooh, I see what you did there. I see what you did there.
Lighthearted stuff in here.
But think of this. They always talk about a shadow government that acts behind the real government, right? Deep state.
You mean people that do their job, I believe is what that's called.
Right.
People that actually have honor, and when they took those oaths of office, that actually meant something.
So you look at our 3-letter agencies, right? CIA, FBI, you can rattle off 5, 10 of them, right?
Yep.
Who's really pulling the strings behind those 3-letter agencies, and what is their agenda, right? And we all know, regardless of how patriotic you are, I am, these people are, the almighty dollar and a little bit of power will change anybody's minds and ideas. Everybody's got a price. Didn't Ted DiBiase say that in WWF way back in the day? So you look at these agencies and you say they're either in on it or they're too dumb to understand what's going on. What if it's a little bit of both? It's like I said earlier, you have these pawns who you give them the auspice that they've got a little bit of power, and somebody else behind the scenes is pulling the strings. They're doing the grunt work, and somebody else is reaping their rewards.
I see that, and I can agree with that. Like you say, the grunt, the new agent who's all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and idealistic and all this. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're probably, until they've been around for enough years to get corrupted, or they get chewed up and they get spit out,
right.
Because the system, and that was something that I thought about a long time ago when I had aspirations. Like I thought being a cop would be really neat. until I realized, what happens when, something's going on. Because I think even way back then when I was young, I realized I don't think I'm like all the other guys here.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens when something's going on and I'm like, hey, no, don't do that, fellow officer guy.
Right.
How's that going to go? Because I'm going to rely on this person to come save me at some point.
Right.
And so if I'm not just along with whatever they do, that's not going to end well for me.
Yeah. What's going to happen when you need help or you need assistance? They're not going to be there for you.
Yeah, because they're going to obviously feel like, I'm not in on, the gang, because kind of feels like it's a gang.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't know. So that was just my own take on it. But I think like even with George Floyd's incident and tragedy, that was my nightmare. Like that whole scenario was like, at least from what I understand, at least two of those cops, of those four cops that were there, two of them, that was like their first day on the job. Like they were outright rookies.
Right.
So that was my nightmare. Like you're a rookie and you're in that scenario.
And something's going down.
No, not just something. That's going down.
Right.
You gonna knock your boss off? I don't know. Are you?
Yeah.
And then you're gonna expect that your boss is gonna have your back, or not just fucking. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I just
absolutely, yeah.
It's a fucked up position, and yes, of course, if the boss wasn't a psychopath and out killing people, then you wouldn't have to be in that situation. But unfortunately, I don't think that's an isolated incident. And I think
I don't think that's an isolated incident at all.
Of course it's not. And but am I, should I, if I was really a big duty bound type of person, shouldn't I have done it anyway? Right?
But remember, if you're
duty is comic books, man. I'm sorry, man. Duty is comic books. That's one thing that I've learned over these last just 3 years or whatever, that I must have been the only fool sap taking that shit seriously, because everybody else seems to just be like, skip it. I'm either gonna go get paid, or I'm going to go in this to go do a bunch of sadistic shit to people.
Right.
And
you have to, so here's the deal. Like when we were coming up, there were people who were going into the profession of being a cop to do things the right way. I know some people who are cops who were lunatics in high school. You know some people who are cops now that were lunatics in high school. And the only thing they were ever going to be was a soldier or a cop, right?
See that, but that right there is where I that's what frustrates me so much, because those two things are so wildly different from what I was taught, from what I understand of the description of those two jobs. They couldn't be further apart from each other.
Yeah.
In job description. Now, that has also been the problem, is because we just to put it too simply, we've made our cops soldiers, and then we've made our soldiers cops. Meaning that the war that we've been fighting in the Middle East for umpteen ungodly years it's an occupation where we're trying to be an occupying force using soldiers to be police.
Correct.
Effectively trying to police a population.
A population in another country.
Soldiers are not good at being police.
Right.
That's not what they are.
Right.
Soldiers are good at being soldiers. They're not cops. Similarly, cops are not good at being soldiers. And although lately it seems like all we're doing is making ex-soldiers cops. So But historically, cops are not supposed to be soldiers. Cops are not even. It's not this. It's not even the same.
It's not the same skill set.
Like in my opinion, like Andy Griffith, that old show.
Yeah.
Like his little deputy Barney Fife.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Here's your pistol. Put it in your holster. Here's your bullet. Put it in your pocket."
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need to get way more back on that track. And I think honestly that, I mean, there's a big case to be made that the police are called for problems that they have no business trying to solve.
I would agree with that.
And you know, yes, they are a limited resource and they should be used in a better capacity. And also they shouldn't look like freaking army boys, because then you just, I mean, they already try to talk with this mentality of oh, and they walk around like they're an occupying force. You know, God
Well,
damn,
like you said before,
you're
it's
a cop, for God's sake.
It's a gang, like you said before. I mean,
But it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to, you know, again, I was very naive. I have a very naive view of the world. I was brought up with a very naive view of the world, and I believed in that naive shit that I was taught, that police are supposed to be there as an agent of the community, to be helping the community, to be, well, just to be helping the community.
mm-hmm.
Simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
But now it does not seem to be a help the community thing. It just seems to be a contain the community, you know, stomp the community. And you know, the big difference, you know, like back like in the early 90s, they had this whole idea of community policing.
Community policing, yep.
Right. And I remember hearing police, like captains and sergeants, telling their squad, whatever, before patrol on a hot summer day. They said, "I don't want to see one of you with your air conditioning on with your windows up. Your windows are to be down. You're to be talking with your community. You're supposed to be more approachable. If you can't do that," and like they would literally punish some of the other cops. Like, okay, fine, get out and walk. You know, and go walk a beat. You know, and go walk around and like. Cops look more like Lieutenant Dangle from Reno 911. That, you know, the bike shorts cops.
Yep.
That was like a whole thing. I mean, the whole idea was to be as approachable as possible.
Back in the day, what was it? Officer friendly. Remember that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like back then, like cops could have ponytails in this town. You were specifically told you could not wear mirrored sunglasses.
Mm-hmm.
Little details like that, and people go, "Oh, that's such a small detail." It's true, it is a small detail, but it is an important one. And there is a whole image that goes on that it's the same image now when they all rock their stupid black outfit without, you know, body armor, like, you know, they're freaking in Kuwait or some shit. You know, like, what are you doing? You know, I mean, you.
Well,
I know what you're doing, but
yeah,
I mean,
I look at it this way. So things have changed. Shouldn't your police officers look like the communities they represent?
oh, for sure. Well, most cops don't even live in the community.
But my point is, if I walk into a grocery store and there's a cop that's off duty, I can pick him out from 100 yards away.
Right.
Am I right? If you see an off-duty cop in street clothes, you can tell he's a cop before you can tell he's a person. Am I right?
I kind of hear you. Yeah, sure.
Right.
I mean, you
right?
know,
and I'm not trying to stereotype, but they all got the same haircut. They all walk a certain way. I mean, you can just tell I can just look and go, that's a cop. And
Yeah,
that's not a good thing or a bad thing. But my point is, if you want the community to understand and respect any certain people, shouldn't they be representative of the communities they serve?
Of course, but and that right there is a good example that that's not the goal. The goal is not some big, oh, we're trying to outreach to our community and be more. Nah, it's get in line, you know, and
like you said, it's containment.
Well, and now, I mean, like, just trying to, tie these ideas together of, Patriot Act, technology, that mindset with your local law enforcement. It's not a fun mix. I mean, that gets to a, drone flying over protests, logging everybody's information. And I mean, I know, I saw there was an article somewhere that, I mean, the amount of information that they were scooping up on all these people protesting,
facial recognition,
all of it, all their phone data.
Yeah.
That's that's our brave new world. It just is. So.
Well, and the crazy thing is, man, here's the crazy thing. When you talk about the phone data, you're talking about stuff that we've voluntarily said you can take at any time.
Oh, for sure.
At any time.
That's why, like when last episode you're talking about how off the grid I am, I'm like, dude, no, I guess, except, I mean, you have a phone and you are, if you're not aware of the idea that you are just, you're on record now. I am too. I mean, that I don't go post it all myself. I don't need to. They got it already. And,
right.
The thought that I have is that the amount of information being scooped up. I mean, you've seen that data center in Nevada or Utah or whatever, right? I don't know what it's called. I'm sure we could Google it if we had those capabilities. But the amount of data that's getting scooped up. I mean, people can't review that.
No.
So computers review that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So our good friend, Mr. Computer, and all
everything.
But like all the, I'm trying not to use derogatory terms. All the super smart folks that have spent remarkable amounts of time in the pursuit of artificial intelligence for, I'm not sure what reason. I know that there's been some beneficial reasons stated, and okay. But there sure seems to be a lot of downside to it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And we're trusting all of these guys. I mean, I don't know where their moral compass points. For all I know, they're doing all this just to make a sweet sex doll.
Could be, yeah.
I mean, I swear to God, and everything else is just kind of a byproduct that could kind of get in the way, and it'll be okay if a few people get flattened by the steamroller of AI. Well, that'll be all right because
just collateral damage. But I mean, it's hard to deny all the information. Think about this. Think about the information that we willingly give out, and then think about the information that they take that we don't willingly give out.
Well, but that's what I'm saying is that I'm willingly giving up everything that we're talking about right now because my phone is on. It's right here. And it's recording away. Yeah, I mean, it's been shown that they're doing that. It's been shown that they can turn the shit on. It's been shown that they can turn the mic on. I mean, I'm at the point now, which sucks, and I hate it, but that's what you give up. That's the trade-off when you say, hey, I want a phone. Then you trade off the whole idea of people are going to watch you jerk off, or, I mean, if you think my life is that interesting going to the weed store, okay,
right.
go,
Right. Well, and I know you're not on Facebook, but I'll tell you the spookiest thing, right? Give you a perfect example. Last Thanksgiving, I'm at my mother-in-law's house, right? We're over there for Thanksgiving dinner. And we're sitting in the living room and we're having a conversation about X, Y, or Z, right? We're talking about it. That night I get home and I open up Facebook and I have an ad for the thing we were talking about. Now, I have never looked this up before. And the only time I had said it out loud was with my brother-in-law, my wife, and some other people. And the first thing I see when I open up my phone is an ad for the thing that we're talking about.
But you don't use Facebook for that, man. I get that condition all the time. I mean,
I took a screenshot and I sent it to my brother-in-law. And he was like, I told you. And I'm like, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying how spooky that is, that like somebody somewhere thought because of my conversation that they could send me an ad and I would buy this product.
But right? I don't think that was any person making a decision. That's all just algorithm.
It's AI, right? Based upon what the AI heard, it sent me an ad.
Yeah, and I know that I've gotten the same thing based on like whether I do a Google search on something, and then next thing I know, like the news website that I go to.
Mm-hmm.
This is like an aggregate of news, and then people talk shit about the news.
Right.
But there's banner ads all over the place.
Yeah.
And same thing, I mean, anytime I know I've done the same thing. I'll just have a conversation in the room. And I don't have any Alexa device or anything like that. It's just my damn phone.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I have mentioned a trip to Whistler to go skiing.
Right.
Next thing I know, like every damn banner ad on that site is like, hey, you're going to go skiing? You're going to go to Whistler? Sweet. Here's a deal. Like, oh, well. I mean, again, that's, that's there's the pros and cons of all this technology. I mean,
the pro on that
is send me a great coupon for Whistler, and I go, oh, that's pretty great,
But the con is that everything you've been talking about for the last 2 days, they've heard that also.
But that's the part right there. Like I was saying a second ago, that I mean, there's no way that there's anybody that can go through that. I mean, there's no way that any 100,000 agents could go through that. And so, I mean, the AI that they have working on that to try to pick up keywords, to hone in on certain types of keywords, and then keep going on that in conversations. And I don't know, man. I mean, that is just because then at some point you're having the computer go, oh, Agent Steve, you should check this out.
Mm-hmm.
And then Agent Steve goes, oh, well, let's go fuck these guys up.
Mm-hmm.
Because the computer told me to.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That's wild.
Exactly.
I mean, it just feels like every damn movie is being somehow used as like a playbook. Whether it's like 1984, Blade Runner, or Idiocracy, mm-hmm. I swear to God, people are going, oh, let's run with that. And it's like, no, those are supposed to be spoof movies and tales of warning and stuff.
They're not supposed to be real life.
People were like, oh man, you're like, oh man, you were really onto something here.
Well, do you also think that those could be like trial balloons? We'll put this movie out and we'll see how people react to it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like books like 1984 are so old.
No, I'm talking about the newer stuff, though. I mean, some of this AI stuff, I mean,
I guess you could say the same. I mean, it's the same argument for aliens of
this is true.
you
Yeah.
put out so many movies and content that you get people just used to the idea. So then
You get them desensitized to it.
Yeah, people. Oh well, okay. Back to freaking the NBA Finals is on.
Yeah.
Yeah. The distraction caused by all these things. And again, I mean, and something is just scooping up like every web search, every trend, every habit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not just conversations. It's not just stuff that you look at. It's not just searches. But I mean, it's compiling all of that. I mean, why? That is such a massive amount of data. Why?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's so that you can go back against anybody, just in case if a year down the line or 10 years down the line, somebody steps out of the line, somebody screws up, somebody does, whatever, you got to blackmail somebody. Oh, we've got this, and we just bam, bam, and I don't know. I don't. What's the point of scooping up all that info?
Well, but on the other side of that, who's pulling the strings? Because 4 years ago, people threw all that stuff out at Trump. They had recordings of him saying stuff, and that didn't seem to matter. So,
yeah, well, I mean, but that's the thing. I mean, but those laws don't apply to you and me. I mean, and everybody else that they're scooping all this info up on. If right now it may not matter, but let's say
10 years from now,
let's say 10 years from now or 5 years from now or a couple, Jamal decides to run for an office, and oh my gosh, we heard you talking about, but but that's the thing. It's like after now, it's like, okay, I mean,
yeah,
whatever. I mean,
right.
Can I advise you on how to grab females by the crotch? I mean,
Well, you know what I mean? Like there was a time in this country. There was a time in this country where that would have been a big deal.
It's supposed to still be a big deal.
It should be a big deal. I mean, okay. And I don't want to try to throw out any bait or anything, but what would the outrage have been if Barack Obama had 3 ex-wives and 3?
No, I mean, it would be the same outrage as if you fill in the blank with that sentence on any of this shit. I mean, the double standard is a little. I mean, it's that, and that was what was so crazy. I mean, that I barely even paid attention when Obama was president, because I mean, it was just like the country was just on cruise control, just doing,
Everybody was good, yeah.
I mean, obviously not everybody, and I'm sure
there was some bumps, yeah.
And there was, but it felt like just a normal, good kind of thing. And now it's just every day is just the chaotic, flaming shitbag fire show that is just grinding people to dust, So it's curious how much people are signing up for that idea. Like people love this chaos, I guess, and where I think that so many people are just so damn bored with their own lives. They just want to see the chaos that's created because they just think it's just a good time, and they're so secure in their life, they don't have to worry about any of the consequences of any of this.
Right. And I agree with you. I think this coronavirus lockdown has really brought out the worst in the country because everybody's at home and everybody's seen what's going on.
It didn't have to. It could have been. It was another opportunity for a unifying moment.
No, I agree with you.
This one was like just intentionally shit on though.
Yeah, no. You're right. We could have had hashtag, drown the.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. I think if we were in a position to have that kind of a response, I don't think we would have been in this position to need a response. We would
I
have
agree.
we would have dealt with it like we dealt with everything else,
Yeah,
with the huge system that we put in place.
yeah.
And so it never would have got to this point. It never would have needed a response. You know,
No, I
but
get you. I'm just saying, I think it just exacerbated everything with everybody being stuck in the house.
oh, it
And
has
just,
now.
you
It
know,
made everything worse. And again, I come from the idea that if you're actively trying to make things worse, if you're actively trying to make this country worse, this is a good way to do it.
right.
You
But
know,
I just don't understand what this guy has to gain by it, or his people have to gain by it.
well,
Maybe
like
I
right
can't
now he has to.
maybe I can't see the bigger picture.
Now, I mean, right now I think. I mean, I really think that he's all in because if he is out of office, he can get charged with crimes like in New York State, and he'll be toast. Um, and I think, I mean, that's the gambit. It's just all in.
So you think it's self-preservation over country?
Dude, do you have any other like possible argument to that for that guy? I mean, come on. I,
No, I
yeah.
don't. Yeah.
I do want before we round third. I it's a bit of a shift of gears, but like I don't know how much you've seen out here. Like I haven't been able to leave the house, and nor has my family for several days now, because it's kind of smoky here. Our air quality is the worst in the world, uh,
Yeah.
because there are forest fires are raging, um, that have actually been shown to be the cause of arson. Um, and it was not the Antifa. If you can believe it, it was a tweaking ass white guy. Shocker, I know. Um, and I mean, it's bad enough when it gets so damn dry because of climate change, and then lightning strikes and whatever. And that seems to be the narrative that a lot of folks that don't want to hear about climate change will run to, and they'll go, "Oh well, it's just like some lightning strikes, and we didn't rake the forest, and we didn't manage the forest." And there is some merit to some of that argument, and I will, fine. However, when it's all man-made fires, either by people throwing gender reveal parties, and I'm ashamed I even know what that phrase is and that I even said it. But I am even more stabby at the idea that somebody set the entire forest on fire with one of those.
Right.
And then some other pile of garbage, piece of humanity, set the other ones intentionally. Mm-hmm. And it's just, this is a woe is me moment, because I mean, it's just because I'm directly affected by it.
Well, dude, you're in the burbs. I mean, if that fire jumps the Clackamas or the Sandy, you could be in some trouble, right? From what I'm reading, if that fire jumps the Clackamas River, it's just head on into town, right?
Yeah, I think that would probably be pretty accurate. And I mean, at that point, you're talking like the entire area. I mean,
yeah.
You're talking like all of Portland, all of.
Yeah, I mean, it's
it's the whole Portland. Yeah, no, it's, and the only place to go is east. I mean, It's burning up north, it's burning down south.
Yeah.
The ocean is the other way. So,
right. So you're wedged between the ocean and Mount Hood.
Yeah, no, I mean, the only place to go is east, and we're right on the edge of the lowest level evacuation zone. But the smoke is just
choking, right?
Oh yeah, no, I mean, you can't go outside. I mean, you need a proper mask, and not like the little surgical mask that gets you into the store because of the corona. You need like the actual N95 or bigger just to breathe. Um, it's like you can like visibility is like I don't know, 100 yards or so.
Yeah, I've seen the pictures, man. It looks like Red Dawn. That's what it reminds me of. It looks like Red Dawn.
Nah, it's ridiculous.
Eyes and-
It's not good. So it made me turn to my kid and go, remember the good old days when all we had to worry about was coronavirus?
yeah.
Yeah. But no, it's
Yeah, it puts a whole new spin on things.
man, I mean, you can't, I mean, it's like the world is just shrinking. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? Because it went from the world is normal, then the Rona hit. So, oh shit, I want to go,
Right.
house, backyard. Now it's, oh, smoking forest fires, so can't go outside anymore. Can only stay in the house. And then, like this morning, like the basement was all smoky here. So then we couldn't go in the basement, and the house got even smaller. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, man, I mean, it's
Are they getting that contained at all? Is that it I mean, it's not raining. I mean, it's when is it ever not rain there, you know?
no, only when we really need it. But no, there's, I mean, that's basically what they're kind of. It sounds like they're hoping for, which we're all hoping for it. But I think that's the only thing that will really put any kind of dent in this is a shift in the weather. To,
If you guys have to evacuate, do you have a plan on where you're going?
uh, no, I mean east, like I
East?
said, which is going to be pretty fucked up because I mean there's not too many ways to go east.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
26, 84. That's about
yeah,
it.
and that'll get weird really quick.
Yeah.
If they actually ring the bell.
Hell,
So
84 gets weird if it rains, if it snows or something.
yeah, no, it's
20 is not much better.
no. So I don't know. It's just kind of keep an eye on it. Hopefully, like they're saying, like Monday is like supposed to be the big change of weather, and hopefully some relief on Tuesday, and get this stuff under control. But yeah, I mean, so I guess shout out to all the people. I mean, if they could just nobody gives a shit about the gender of your kid that much.
Yeah, I know.
It's just,
I when I saw that it was a gender reveal, and I'm much more of a social media like if something happens, I know about it. I don't necessarily take pride in that, but I do. Let's just call it what it is. I'll be self-aware. I've
yeah.
been known to frequent TMZ and to keep track of that stuff. Or my wife tells me, which is more likely to happen because she really keeps track of that stuff.
Nice.
But I don't know, man. I just the whole look at me culture is really starting to backfire on us in a lot of ways. But this forest fire thing, I mean, your mom is right around the same age my mom is, and it's hell, breathing in the smoke's not good for us, much less our parents' age.
No,
So,
well, and I mean, thankfully, I mean, most people out here, a lot of folks out here do not have central AC. We do not. It's window AC units
mhm.
galore, and
Mhm.
we've got 3 of them. Um, and pro tip, you can take your furnace filter and duct tape that sucker over your window AC unit so that you can have air blowing into your house.
That's clean.
And dude, these things turn brown like in a day.
That's crazy.
Like I've been in a house where I didn't change the filter for like a couple of seasons, 2, 3 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't look anything like this. They didn't look anything like this. I mean, like I could show you a picture. Maybe it'll be like right there, maybe. They're just it's disgusting. I mean, and these filters. I mean, props to the people making these filters. And that was a trick that my wife looked up a couple of years ago when there was a big forest fire nearby. Again, intentionally set by somebody that needs their balls kicked through their teeth. But it was a tip out of China. So
Interesting.
they've had to. I mean, and that's a, I mean, air like this on the regular. You know what I mean? Oh,
Yeah.
like and even after like because there was a forest fire here that was really close a couple years ago, and it was this bad with the smoke, if not a little worse. And ever since then, like I try not to take things for granted. You know, I try to be grateful for everything I got, and even since then, just being grateful for going outside and taking a breath of fresh air.
Right.
And the little things, you know, they're nice. So
Well, you're definitely not going out riding the mountain bike in this weather, right? Out in this, what's going on right now. I mean,
oh no, I mean,
you know,
I assume some dumbass probably tries, but you know, I don't even know how you could. I mean, again, it's not like it's just haze. It is. I mean, it's hickory smoke flavor out there, man.
yeah,
And it's just swirling. You know, you see it. It's gross. And like I said, I mean, like you can see like the outlines of trees at like maybe 200 yards.
mm-hmm.
You know, but I mean, you're talking like the outline of a huge Doug fir tree in the middle of a daytime. In the middle of the daytime, when the forecast says it's supposed to be clear blue skies and sunny, and you can maybe see the outline of a Doug fir tree at 200 yards in the middle of the day. It's not, yeah, no, and so I mean the smoke is kind of messing with me some. It's still getting in the house some. We've got it sealed up as best we can, and
So it just smells like you're camping all day, right?
in here it's not so bad.
But if you step outside, it kind of smells like you're camping.
Oh no, step outside and I mean you're putting your face in the campfire.
Oh man.
No, it is
Wow.
no, it's nuts. Yeah, so yeah, rooting for the rain.
The first time ever we wanted to rain in
No,
Portland.
for sure. So you know what that means. You know what it
Oh,
takes.
yeah.
What it takes to actually root for the rain.
Yes, absolutely.
This is what it takes.
That's what it takes.
Uh,
So as we wind down,
yep.
what do we want to leave everybody with right now? We talked about a lot today.
We should try to be like I was thinking. Like we need to add something a little lighthearted of some sort because I mean it's good to dig into the heavy. We need to.
Yes.
Because you know what? So many of these shows are just grab ass shows. Meaning that I mean it's just hey, here's a bunch of clips of some silly shit on the internet, and we can all laugh at that. But I mean these shows that might be like a 2 hour long show. I mean, dang, they rely on the same couple of clips, getting mileage out of it, like somebody like man. Okay, here's one. I mean, just partially environmentally related, mostly fun related. Would you get an electric car?
Would I get an electric car? You know, that's a loaded question because in order to get an electric car, I'd have to have a place to plug it in. And
you don't have a plug-in at your house? Which, by the way, you can also just pay a little extra, and then you get like the supercharger plug-in at your house.
Right.
And again, I am not sponsored by anybody, but I am available. Electric car manufacturer.
I need to know a little more about it now. I haven't shed my Oregonian roots, my natural loving roots. Things back here are not really set up like that. They are going that way. But I live in a very car heavy place. And the amount of charging stations in the part of town I live in are limited. I'll say that.
For sure.
When you get into downtown Charlotte, into where the big buildings are and all the banks and everything are, sure, you got stations all over. Right. Kind of out here in the burbs a little bit, not so much. An electric car for me at this point might not be as practical as I'd like it to be,
Mm-hmm.
but if presented with the opportunity to get an electric car versus a gas car, and I knew I'd have the places in which to fuel it, and the setup at my house to keep it fueled, sure, I'd get an electric car.
Is there any like is it would it is it just like an environmental thing for you, like the draw to do it? Is it?
For me, it would be all about finances. I mean, if it would be cheaper than getting a gas powered car, I'd do it.
Let's say it was the same. Let's say like whatever. And by the way, all of us hip people on here on the West Coast call those ICE cars. ICE, internal combustion engine.
I have not heard that.
Get hip.
Not heard that at all.
And there you go. So if you're still in the ICE vehicle category, if you could get the same whatever car you're looking for as a gasoline car, let's just say it's a small SUV.
Mm-hmm.
Folks like those.
Yes, I own one.
There you go. So you're looking at a brand new small SUV, let's you say, and you've say got $35,000 in your budget, and if you could find a comparable SUV in a internal combustion engine or as a complete 100% electric vehicle, which one do you go with?
Given what I said before, providing I had the availability to charge it, availability to take it where I needed to go and charge it, everything else being the same, I'd go with that. Buddy at work bought a Tesla. Mm. And it is the smoothest damn car you would ever hope to see. I mean, the thing has got everything. It's quiet, it's clean, it looks good, it's fantastic. I'd get one of those in a heartbeat. The problem he's had is if he goes anywhere outside of the core of Charlotte, it's hard to charge it. Yeah. He lives in what we call the South End, and they've got charging stations everywhere, right? It's there's bike lanes. It looks like Portland. There's charging stations everywhere. But if you go 30 miles outside of Charlotte, none. Good luck.
Right. I got you.
You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I think a lot of folks like that, because I mean, historically people have two cars. I mean, this new age, I don't know if that's going to stay the same. But like a lot of folks like, as like a second vehicle, like their main vehicle is still a gasoline car because of the reliability and the, the infrastructure of gas stations. But then they get an electric car as their secondary car, whether it's to commute to work or whatever. I mean, they definitely seem to be the future. I mean, every major manufacturer is.
Yeah, they're making them. We've got 6 rechargeable stations at my work, at our parking garage at work. Granted,
wow,
no one's there right now.
No, but I mean, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah. So we've got a 5-story parking garage. And on the 3rd floor, there's 6 stations, and they're planning on expanding it. But there's 6 stations for people to park their electric cars in there now. So that's how I got to ride in my buddy's Tesla. I just saw it in there, and I'm like, dude, give me a ride in this thing. And he's like, what do you want it to do? And so Charlotte's a banking town, and whatever makes money is what's going to happen in Charlotte. Mm-hmm. So if you're in the downtown part of Charlotte or in just kind of the outer ring of the uptown area, there's bike lanes, there's buses, there's mass transit, there's charging stations. But when you get out, so we've got kind of like 2 lakes, like Lake Norman and Lake Wylie. Think Lake Oswego. Lake Norman is to the north of Charlotte, and it's kind of all NASCAR area, all NASCAR money. Lake Wylie down south, Valentine is kind of old Southern money, right? And those areas are very contained in what they do, and it's everything in the middle is where the new stuff is springing up.
Gotcha.
So if you go out of town, I say out of town, if you go 20, 30 minutes away, or you go to the west towards Gaston County, there's not a lot of that new infrastructure where there is in Charlotte. So where I used to live in Portland, like 16th and Ash, when I lived that way, that area is all about renewable energy and sustainable energy. All around Portland, I mean, the metro area going up to Vancouver, it's all about renewable and sustainable energy. And that part of the country has made an investment in that.
Well, I think where it's going to start becoming more popular for folks that it is not popular for now, it is as it becomes more mainstream. When they start making an electric pickup truck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
like I say, I mean, the infrastructure has always been, which comes first, the infrastructure or the cars, the infrastructure or the cars.
Exactly. Right.
And I mean, like my question, and we can, and that's what I'm going to round off on. And you rode in your friend's car, right? Did you drive it or did you just ride in it?
I rode it. I didn't drive it.
Okay. So did he punch it? Did he let it rip? And
oh, those Teslas, they're not scared. though they got some guts in them.
No, I know. I'm familiar. I mean, I haven't ridden one, but I'm just a big fan. But I'm a big fan of the whole electric car thing. But my kind of question is, I mean, assuming that like, he gave you a demonstration, like, he bam and took off,
Yep.
right? And you felt how fast that could really go. Do you really think that everybody can handle that?
Okay. Let me unpack this. So the part of the country I live in. I live in kind of the good old boy part of the country. When you said
if you ever want to watch some fun videos, watch Teslas destroying at the drag strip. Because, oh my God, you get a bunch of hillbillies that invested their entire life savings into their drag car. And this kid shows up with his dad's Tesla and murders them all. I mean, he clowns them. I mean, it's not even, I'm not a drag person. You're a big drag fan. I mean, you're in the drag community. I know. I mean, you're like related to it and stuff. I mean, this guy kills them by like several car lengths, which is like heartbreaking to these dudes. Like the videos are awesome.
I'm going to have to go look at that.
They're fun because guys get pissed, but this kid, I mean, he's like, it's my dad's car,
Yeah.
And he's just, it's so fun. But to me, what's so fun about it, aside from just watching grown men cry, but these same grown men are like, I want that.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to admit it because that's a fancy new thing from them Californians in San Francisco or something.
Right.
But that damn thing just smoked his American-made, turbocharged, American Hemi. That thing from Frisco just destroyed you, like, off the shelf. I mean, again, these guys spend a lot of dough on their cars upgrading them to the dragster.
Yeah, 100%.
And for a stock car that a kid borrows from his dad
to come out there and destroy him,
destroys him, and just embarrasses them, and so I mean, seeing them go, wait, because I enjoy. I think it's like there's already like a hot rod scene with it. There's already people that will like gut a wrecked Tesla and they'll put the motor into an old Honda Civic. So, that's fun to see. I mean, people put a crazy electric motor in an old Volkswagen bus, and you've got an old Volkswagen Surf bus that can beat a Lamborghini. And it's crazy, but it's kooky and fun. And I think it's kind of bringing the whole people that were reluctant for these electric vehicles, and they see them as like, oh no, I only burn gas and all this kind of stuff. And you're like, yeah, but that's slow. And so many of these guys, all they care about is like being fast.
Right, exactly.
And
so, hey, unlock. Can you unlock so I can share my screen? I want to show you something.
I'm marveling.
If I could buy that right now, I'd buy that right now.
I got so many screens open, I don't even know what. I just saw a brief flash of the Cybertruck. Right? Yeah.
I'm sharing the Cybertruck right now. Hopefully, it's showing on the stream. That Cybertruck is pretty.
You love it?
Right there. I'd take that. All right, let me stop that. All right. Anyways, hopefully our technical support got that. That Cybertruck, I just pulled it up. That thing is sweet. So.
Oh, for sure.
Here's the deal. I'm a big guy, right? Over 6'1", probably a little bit beefier than I need to be. So, no, I like SUVs because I fit in SUVs. I don't really fit in a car. Obviously I fit in a car, but I'm comfortable in an SUV, right? That's just, I'm a bigger guy.
Sure.
So when I go to buy a vehicle, that's the first thing I look for is how do I fit in this car, right? And then the second thing is it practical for me and the family? Mm-hmm. So a little two-door convertible doesn't really work for a guy with a 7-year-old and an 11-year-old, right?
No, for sure.
So a mid-size SUV works for me. It's comfortable for me. I can put the wife and kids in it. We can throw some stuff for the pool in the back, and we're good to go. Mm-hmm. The problem I've personally had with kind of the electric cars is they're smaller. They tend to scale on the smaller.
Dude, that Cybertruck is gigantic.
I'm looking at this Cybertruck. I don't know what this thing cost, but that thing is
like bigger than a Suburban. That thing is like 20 feet long.
And I don't even. Oh, it's $40,000. Really?
Yeah, if they make it,
For the single motor, so dual, so basically the mid-size is $50,000. Which is,
dude, and this is one thing that, like, I've talked to people before, and they're like, "Oh, the EVs are so expensive." I'm like, there are so many people around here that drive those big diesel pickup trucks.
Oh, absolutely.
I assume those are a big thing back there too.
Oh, they're $60,000-$70,000 trucks.
That's to start.
Before you jack it up.
That's what I'm saying. Throw rims on it, huge tires. Yeah. These guys are into their pickup trucks for $100,000 easy, towing a boat or whatever the shit. So I can't really buy this idea that EVs are too expensive because, obviously people are willing to throw down on their vehicles. So, like I said, I think the super clapped out Cybertruck with like the dual motors and everything that you would actually want is probably going to be closer to like 60 or something. Maybe it's only 50.
The dual motor is $49,900. The tri-motor is $69,900.
Yeah, so
which is comparable to his gas brother or sister. But this thing
it'd be bad A.
This thing is hot, man.
Forget about it. But yeah, I think that's it's one of those things that there's a lot behind it that we could talk about as far as the environmental impacts of it and reasons behind it and whatever. But for me, they're awesome. They're faster than anything else, which is what's so crazy because all the guys that want to resist them so hard, they want to resist these things so hard. Mm-hmm. Man, when these trucks start showing up, and I get that they're resisting cars because right now they're just cars and fine.
Right.
Okay. But when they start rolling out, when Ford, it's one thing when it's like, there we are. It's one thing when it's, Tesla, some, weird company, but when Ford comes out with a F-150 electric, not even hybrid, full tilt electric, when they, and that, it's on the way. Mm-hmm. All these guys, they're going to hang on to their, old ways as long as they can. That's what they love to do, right, with everything. But eventually, reality will hopefully slap some of these people in the face and you know, they'll come around. But
I'm gonna look at this Cybertruck all night. This thing looks like the thing from RoboCop. Remember the thing RoboCop drove?
oh, for sure, and it's got its own little quad.
Yeah.
There's a fun guy out there to watch, just throwing out other folks' videos, but he rebuilds like all that kind of stuff, and he's kind of a pioneer in all the swapping over all of that. He's a fun watch. He built his own cyber quad. Because like, I don't know if you remember from the Cybertruck rollout, they had like a little ATV that was like in the back of it.
Yeah.
This guy built his own little electric ATV, and it was off of the carcass of like a Yamaha, whatever.
Yeah, I got you.
Took out the gas engine, put in an electric engine. But that thing is like frighteningly fast. It's I highly recommend that you look it up. I'll
go look it up.
Yeah. I don't know how much we're supposed to get in the habit of like telling about other people's like channels. So I'm not trying to pimp other people's channels, but look up the Cyber Quad homemade version or some version like that. I don't know. He's a fun watch. And it's neat seeing what people are into. And again, it feels like the hot rod days that people first started tearing apart cars and rebuilding them or whatever.
Absolutely.
And now they're doing it with electric cars, and they're doing wild stuff. And I wish I was more mechanically inclined to participate, but instead I just watch it and go, wow, that's wild. And I look forward to all the cars that are,
I'm gonna look into this. Hey, for next week, we said we didn't want it all to be so heavy. I've got a segment that I want to do with you next week. I don't know if I want to call it buy it or sell it, true or false, red flag, green flag. It's going to be something where I'm going to come up with 4 or 5 things, and I want to get your opinion. And you're either going to say, I'm buying that, I'm selling that, true, false, red flag, green flag. So we're going to do something like that every week where I'm going to, get some stuff that's timely, and we're going to take a stand on one side or the other and see if we're going to buy or sell. So I know a lot of other people have done something like that in the past, but I think it's a good way to kind of lighten things up a little bit. Some things will be more serious. Some things will be a little more fun, but we'll find a way to kind of take a stand.
Maybe we talk about WAP.
Have you seen that video?
Shit, come on, man.
Oh my God.
I just love that, like, seriously, like, after that video dropped, like, the next day, like, honestly, it was like she's like interviewing Joe Biden. I'm like, what is that? I mean, don't get me wrong, you can have an opinion and you can be smart too, and that's great.
Right.
And I get that you're trying to connect with a lot of folks that are Democrats, but dang, really? WAP. Now let's get serious for a minute. Oh, shit.
So I hadn't seen the video, and one of the text threads I'm in, somebody sent me something. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, dude, where have you been? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, this is taking over the world. So I get on the old YouTube machine, and I type in WAP, and I'm glad I wasn't on my work computer. And I'm like, is this real?
Dude, well, was 2 Live Crew real? I mean, come on.
That's true, yeah.
It's
yeah.
I'm
like, okay. All right.
I mean,
sure, we can talk about it.
That lady knows what she likes, and good for her.
Yes, she does.
Good for her. So
that seems
here. I'll leave with this. My question, and if you want to just drop it now, fine. But I thought a stallion was a dude horse.
Oh, you're talking about Megan the Stallion.
I believe it's the stallion, but yes. We can pick that up next week.
Yeah. Yes. That's a good place to pick it up next week.
Awesome.
Megan the Stallion and Cardi B's WAP.
Anyone's WAP, really.
Anyone's WAP, yeah.
I'm open to hearing about it.
Yeah. All right. It sounds good, man. You got me, man. You got me.
All right, man. Good show. And, I everybody out there, do your rain dances. Yeah,
Hey, we can send WAP in.
The wetter, the better.
That needs to be on a T-shirt somewhere.
I think that'll be like the thumbnail of like, one of our clips.
Yes, wetter the better.
All right, man.
Have a good night. I'll see you next week.
All right.
Everybody out there, we'll see you next week. Come back. We'll see you next week.
We'll be here.
All right. Bye-bye.